Hi everyone, and welcome to On Purpose Astrology. Today I'm going to be talking about the full moon in Gemini on the 15th of December. Let me share my screen. I have called this video Full Moon in Gemini and the Retrograde Effect. As you probably know, Mercury is being retrograde. It's currently retrograde as I'm recording this on the 11th of December, but it starts to station direct, starts to slowly go forward around the time of this full moon. And Mars, of course, is retrograde, and I've talked about that in the last video, and I'll mention it again because obviously it's part of this picture for the full moon. So here's the chart for the full moon. You can see the moon is in Gemini and it's opposite the sun in Sagittarius. Mercury stationing, it's about to station direct at this full moon time, also in Sagittarius. Now, an overall theme for this full moon, looking at Gemini, it's about ideas, it's about information, it's about communication, which is underlined by this Mercury here going very slow, about to go also very slowly forward. Mercury, of course, the planet of information, of communication, of opinions, of ideas, of, short travels, all those kind of things that we associate with Mercury. So this full moon is a time to reflect. Now, the reflective time of a full moon is rather different from the reflective time of a new moon. When the moon is dark, we can't really see what's happening. It's a time more to go inward to rest. But during the full moon, everything's more on display, so we can see what's happening. We can have a better understanding of how we're communicating, how we are relating to other people, to ourselves, to the world. And the moon doesn't have its own light. It has the reflected light of the sun. The sun is about our direction, our purpose. So how is that reflected in your behavior, your moods and your habits, and certainly your thought forms, your ideas, your opinions, and how you express them? Moon in Gemini. How do you digest? Moon is about the digestion, how we feed ourselves. How do you feed yourself with information? Where do you get your information from? Where do you get your opinions from? This strong theme that runs throughout about information and communication is also supported by Jupiter, also in Gemini. Jupiter and Gemini, it's not the best placement for Jupiter. Gemini, the best placement for it is Pisces or Sagittarius. So again, we've got a Jupiter that has a little bit of work that needs to be done. And that work can be that discernment of where you get your information from. Where is your mindset? What are your opinions? Where do you get them from? How do you express them? It's not about being right. It's about accepting that you have your own opinions. Where do your opinions come from? There might be some misinformation. There might be some misunderstandings. There might be some confusion. And the reason I'm saying this is because there is a T-square from this full moon to Neptune in Pisces, there in the second house in this chart. It'll be in a different house in your own chart, but set for London, it happens to fall in the second. As always, I'll put a little link to the very brief descriptions of what the houses mean in terms of the areas of life they pertain to. And also you can get a free chart, alabe.com or astro.com if you don't have the chart. Misinformation, confusion, delusion. Where are you perhaps being lied to? Where are you lying to yourself? More importantly, be discerning. I think discernment and wisdom, I think, are some really interesting things to think about for this full moon. Where can you be more discerning? Discernment kind of comes out of judgment. We make judgments, we make snap judgments, we make snap judgments all the time about ourselves, about other people, about the world, about everything that happens to us. But if you can be discerning, discerning is wise judgment, so wisdom. Jupiter is in a square, a long-running square to Saturn, and both Saturn and Jupiter are about wisdom. So this is where the wisdom theme tends to come from in this chart. It's written in other ways as well, but generally in this chart, wisdom is maybe propagating wisdom and discernment is the way out of the more difficulties of this full moon. Full moons, as we know, is it's a very short thing. It's a very short thing. It's a day, really. But we can take the themes of this full moon forward into the next few weeks. And this Mars retrograde here is going to be with us until, let me just check the dates. Mars retrograde is going to be with us until February. 25th of February. So it's a long running one. It goes back into Cancer as well. So, wisdom. Saturn, this Jupiter-Saturn square, Saturn is about wisdom through suffering, perhaps through lessons, through overcoming obstacles, through going through challenges, through basically experience and mastery. How we go through life and we have experience and we master things. I was listening to a podcast last night, and people were it was a podcast in which people were asking questions of the speaker, and someone was really feeling overwhelmed by some of the challenges they were going through, and the speaker turned around and said, well, you are here, you are here, you are alive, you are thriving because you have been through so many challenges in your life and you are still here. You've got through all of them, and that is Saturn mastery. Jupiter's wisdom is slightly different. It's more optimistic. It's more of like an inner knowing. It's an inner confidence. It's like, I've got this. I understand this. I know this. So the two together can be really good combination. So this is where we have some help from this chart. Now, to talk a little bit more about Mars in Leo retrograde. So Mars in Leo is incredibly courageous. It's the heart of the lion, right? It's fun, it's creative, it's all these wonderful things potentially. When it's retrograde, when it's in its long-running opposition to Pluto, which isn't exact, it's a 5 degrees off during this full moon, but it's still having an energetic influence because we've had one opposition and there'll be 2 more to come in the weeks and months to come. So that adds a great intensity. Pluto with Mars, it's associated with buried rage. So there might be some anger that comes up during this time, and generally speaking, wondering where that might come through. It's kind of been stored up. Now, it's about finding the courage. It can be quite reactive. And Mars in Leo, how can we use Mars in Leo? Finding that courage. I think Mars Pluto can just feel very dark. You can feel very attacked even, but it's also can handled in a wise way and in a discerning way. And by trying not to react spontaneously or overreacting, trying to understand and learn about your triggers and then taking a little bit of space before knowing whether to deal directly or not with what is triggering you. Because remember, your own opinion of yourself, going back to opinions and ideas again for this full moon, for all this Gemini stuff and Mercury just going direct, your opinion of yourself is more important than other people's opinion of you. Obviously, if you hurt somebody with your words, then you may need to make recompense. You may need to apologize or explain yourself, of course, always. But this really is a Mars Pluto where you can really tap into some really deep inner strong resources. Find the courage to maybe stand up for yourself, the courage to step into your own power. I've talked a lot about the North Node in Aries. It's still in Aries. It's nearly going into Pisces. It'll go in Pisces in the next few weeks, but it's still in Aries. It's been in Aries for almost 18 months. And the North Node talks about where we, in our own chart, but also collectively when it's in transit like it is here, it talks about where we need to go, where we're moving towards, and moving towards your own sovereignty and having faith and courage and confidence. It's in the Mars sign of Aries. So have courage and confidence in your own sovereignty. As I said, and go back and I reiterate, your opinion of yourself is more important than your the opinion of others of you. And we can see also that this Mars in this chart is opposite Venus. So again, self-esteem. It's about thinking and reflecting on self-esteem, that you are sovereign, that you have a right to your own opinions, and that other people also have a right to their own opinions. And it really isn't often at all worth fighting over. So power dynamics in relationships comes into it as well. That's another thing we might need to reflect upon as well. Trust your own wisdom, I think, is a good message for this. Trust your own wisdom. It might be on a full moon itself that you might be more prone to sort of acting out. But however, particularly if your pride, pride, Mars in Leo, pride, particularly if your pride is hurt. Also, the issue of toxic masculinity might come up again. There's a lot of talk about, it's a catchphrase almost, isn't it? Toxic masculinity. The sort of the idea of men who maybe follow certain social media or online figures who have toxic views about women, for example. So this might be coming up in the headlines again, this idea of toxic masculinity. So we can always look out in the news and what's happening on social media and the TV shows and the movies that come out often reflect what's happening in the sky. I watched well, I didn't watch, I listened to a talk radio station just the other day, literally a day or two ago. And there was a female presenter who literally said on air, I invite men who have toxic masculine ideas to come on the show to talk to me, to tell me about them, to tell me why they have such opinions. Again, we're going back to opinions and ideas. Where do you get your opinions from? Where do you apply your own discernment and your own wisdom in terms of sort of being yourself and coming into your own sovereignty, to have faith and courage in your own sovereignty? So this Mars retrograde period, and I've said this before, I'm focusing on it because it is pretty much one of the most important things happening in this chart at the moment, in the sky at the moment, is this Mars retrograde. We've got a lot to come in the new year. We've got lots of planets moving signs. In my next video before the Christmas holiday, I will be looking at the winter solstice chart. I'll be doing that in the next few days, probably next week. It's a time to kind of think, perhaps this Mars retrograde period, about where you might need to find some more inner confidence, confidence in yourself, in your feelings, and again, as I've been reiterating again and again, in your own opinions and your opinion of yourself. It might be where you're being too pushy or too overconfident. You might have a humbling experience potentially. So again, a few things to think about. But for now, I think this is all I want to say at the moment. Oh, just a quick one as well to say that Uranus here in this full moon chart, so this is a thing that's going to last a day or two, is Uranus is in a quincunx to the sun here. Quincunx aspect is an awkward aspect. It can bring irritability. Uranus can represent triggers. So again, when you're triggered, take some time to think about why you're triggered. Try not to immediately react or overreact. Remember, discernment and what is wise judgment, discernment and wisdom. And remember, all might not be as it seems. I always say that in a full moon, we do see everything as it is. the full light. Well, the full light we see might not be the whole picture, or it might be a distortion of the picture, or it might not be your truth. And the reason I say that is to go back to what I mentioned earlier about that T-square to this full moon with Pisces, with Neptune in Pisces. You know, Neptune's such a nebulous sort of planet, the things it represents. And I always get a little bit confused even when I talk about Neptune and kind of get it wrong. There you go. It's interesting. It's kind of a little bit meta in that respect. And again, with Mercury, it's coming out of its retrograde. So we still might have a few things to clear up. There still might be a few little hitches and things that went wrong or need to be redone. But for now, as I said, the next video will be looking at the solstice chart, which is the ingress of the sun into Capricorn, which is a really good chart to look at for looking at forecasting for the next few months ahead. But until then, I wish you love and I wish you wisdom and I wish you peace and also a little bit of joy. Thank you so much for watching and listening, and thank you for what's been a great year on this channel. It's been an incredibly challenging year for me personally, and it's been great to be able to come on and speak to you about my passion, which is astrology. Lots of love to everyone. Thank you so much.